What does it take to survive 5 years of a PhD? It's endless patience, a little chaos, moments of doubt that somehow turn into breakthroughs. It's long nights wrestling with equations, diving into dense research papers, and untangling some of the most complex ideas, while trying not to forget that life exists outside research. Some people get buried in papers and never see the world. But others find ways to balance, to grow, and even to enjoy the ride. Today's guest is one of those people. He came to Germany as an Indian student, navigating a new culture while building a life from scratch. He started in experimental particle physics at CERN, then switched to theoretical quantum information at Johannes Gutenberg-Universität Mainz, collaborating with researchers all over the world. He worked in quantum tech industry in Toronto, Canada, runs a blog post making quantum physics and AI accessible. While doing all this, he didn't pause his life. He got married, learned swimming, driving, and traveled across Europe, proving that PhD doesn't have to mean putting your life on hold. Today, we're talking with Siddardha Chelluri about his journey, how he balances research, life, settling in Germany, and why patience, perspective, and curiosity are as important as any equation in quantum physics. Let's dive in. Hello, Siddharth. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Chandana. Thank you very much.
So, you are in the stage of almost completing your PhD, like just one more month to go. So, how is the feeling right now?
I would say it's very much mixed because it's been quite a while, like 4 or 5 years of like a lot of work and effort went in there. So in some sense, I'm also happy that it's kind of like taking shape and concluding. On the other side, I might also miss the things that I did in PhD, and I think PhD is also the last time when you can say that I'm student and stuff like this. So it's also, yeah, so it's mixed.
So, like, what are the things that you would actually miss? I'm curious to know.
I think being a student, especially like I'm doing it in Germany, so like in Germany, it's very, there are like a lot of things that you would miss if you're not part of the university, I think like just being around, young people and all the activities that are happening in the university and so on. I think these are the things that I would probably miss the most.
And what are you actually happy to miss? That you're like, oh God, I'm done with this.
I would say to some extent, to some extent, I would say it is like this writing part, I would say to some extent, like because sometimes like you are writing and rewriting and like making pictures again and again and things like this. I'm not so much fan of, I actually like writing, but not like making figures like so many times and go to perfection and stuff like this.
So I'm assuming you felt doing research to be easier than writing and
well, I would say that I maybe enjoy a little bit more than I don't know, drawing figures or making presentations is like maybe the boring part, I would say. So yeah.
What was your topic is actually about?
So it's about like in the overall, it's about like it's like entanglement, error correction in quantum repeaters and networks. So that's how I would frame it. So it's basically like studying like how to get entanglement and then also like how to do error correction for quantum repeaters and networks.
So like you've just worked on all this topic like from past 5 years. Or were there also like detours happening and stuff like?
Yeah, so actually it didn't start this way, to be honest. So the idea was to look more into the physical systems actually, like light matter interactions, atomic systems and so on. So which could be used to study like quantum memories, efficiencies of the quantum memories and so on. But the application was still quantum repeaters, but networks was not in the picture. And at some point during the PhD, I got this idea to do something for the networks, and then like this actually worked out, and then like, I had like more in this direction of quantum networks. So the initial idea to study the light matter interactions went down, and the networks kicked in.
So I can sense that like you have this freedom to choose your topic and what interests you during your research. Seems like a very great privilege that you have.
Yes, with some, there are some pros and cons to this. As you rightly said, the pro is like when I joined the group, like we don't already have a problem directly to work on. So it was like more about like going through the literature, trying to see like what interests and so on and so forth. So yeah, so this freedom part was like very essential, and our group is like very much like this. But the negative part is that because you have a lot of freedom, you can also like, like
Get lost.
diverge very quickly and don't know what to do. And sometimes you're, yeah, it also gets hard, especially because like if you don't have clarity, then you can easily like go into like so many, it's like a going down the rabbit hole. So
Like looking back now, like 5 years ago, what was your like first year like? What are some of the advices that you want to give it to yourself?
oh yeah, that's a good question actually. So I think like I started in the beginning of COVID. So it was like all home office and stuff like this. So one thing that I didn't do, I would have probably did if I do it again, is to learn some more things from the beginning. Like for example, like not just always think about like research or the problem or trying to do something like this like in that box, but basically learn some general things, because there are like a lot of things in the quantum information that one must know at the basic level, especially the theoretical tools or the mathematical tools or the software stuff or whatever. This all these tools are there. I think in the beginning years it's like the best time to learn. So you could pick up a book, join a course, like go to a master's course, or like take a book or something like this, or attend some school or something, but focus more on the learning the tools and the machinery that is required to do research.
So, someone who is going to join their PhD, they don't have to worry about being a perfectionist and like be a know it all person then.
Absolutely. So I did my master's in experimental particle physics and my PhD is in theoretical quantum information. So you can clearly see it's like from particle physics to quantum information and experiment to theory. So you don't obviously have to know much, but yeah, that's why it's important that you can use the first years to learn something in this topic.
So, like, how was the development of your research over the time? Like, how did your thinking change over the time?
Yeah. So in the beginning, every time I had some idea, like in the very beginning, I had some idea on how research is done or something like this. In the master thesis, it was more data analysis and so on. So it was not like, I mean, the problem was already there. I know what to do, and I was mostly coding and doing data analysis and things like this. But in PhD, it's not like this. As I said before, there's a lot of freedom. So this opens like many doors. And so I was trying to understand these papers and like what is happening in the field, and then try to see like if there is something that I could like come up with like a problem that could be solvable. So it's not like I don't have a problem. So first thing is like hunt for the problem, I would say. So I see like some previous papers from our group and so on. So I was like trying to understand them and try to see the basic notions and stuff like this, and then try to come up with a problems which are very vague, they are not precise. But over the years I understood like how actually research is being done from the inside with this experience. Then you really know like how one problem stems from the other problem, or how to like articulate a problem, bring it to like a state where it could be solvable, or could be explained more precisely and stuff like this. So in the beginning I was very much struggling with that. Okay, I want to do this, but I have no clue. It's more like a science fiction kind of thing. And then like over time, then we narrow it down and say that like this is what we have to prove, or this is what we have to simulate to show this is how we have to do it. So that funneling down, that's what happened over the time.
Time and patience answers everything, I guess.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, for sure.
Like, how is the kind of help that you were getting from your professor? Or was it like more of an independent kind of thing?
I think like the main interest, of course, like he's a great advisor, and he's like mostly like giving, in the very beginning, he was giving me time to read and understand the stuff, to able to, because as I said, I'm coming from this experimental particle physics thing. So I asked that I need some time. So he was sending like some review papers and things that they worked on in the past and so on, to get a feel for it. After that, like we always brainstorm together to get to a problem. And then like when I solve, like if I am stuck or something like this, I usually have a discussion with him. So overall, he gives a lot of freedom and independence, but you can always go and talk to him, and he would suggest you something, or discuss various ideas and so on. He's very open, and I think I'm very very lucky to actually have a very good advisor because he's extremely knowledgeable, at the same time very encouraging, and whenever you come up with a new idea he always discusses it through and like sees the possible things and so on. So in that way it's quite nice actually.
But doing research, are you someone like who wants to be isolated and work all by yourself because you're a theoretician? Or are you someone who prefers talking to people and then like collaborating stuff?
Um, I would prefer more on the collaborating side, especially because most of the problems that we solved during my PhD, these are like also a little bit interdisciplinary. So quantum information itself is interdisciplinary because there are people from physics, computer science, mathematics, experimental. I mean, there are like different kinds of people, so naturally it's interdisciplinary. And also the work that I did is very much related to like graph theory or simulations or like some kind of hardware related stuff like microwave cavities and so on. So I'm not expert of all those things, so it always helped me to collaborate with some people. But like I make it extremely clear to myself what I am bringing to the table and what others should bring to the table and so on. So it's a very clear collaboration what everybody is bringing to the table. And in whatever I'm bringing, I usually have like the complete independence. So that's how I do it.
Are you suggesting that clarity is one of the foundations that we need to have for collaborations?
I don't think you need to have like absolute clarity, but I think like you should have more like a reasonable direction or the idea. So when I'm proposing someone to collaborate, so I need to show like a path where this person can contribute to. So I think that's every time I had the collaboration, I showed what I did or I could do, and this is the missing piece, and if they could fill the missing piece. So, I mean, it was not always like extremely clear what I'm asking for. Sometimes it's very vague. So we keep on discussing, meeting, and so on, and then at some point it gets more clear.
What are the suggestions that you would give to young researchers like who are in their first or second years about these collaborations? How are we supposed to like hunt for the right people?
I think it very much depends on the problem. So as I said, like for my problem, I realized that for quantum networks and so on, there is like a lot of graph theory things that are coming in. So then I understood that a lot of graph theory knowledge is like kind of useful. So then I look for people who are working in graph theory, also more or less in the quantum or applications to quantum thing. They're also on that boundary somewhere. And then like I talk to them and I ask a couple of questions in the graph theory, and then like we see that if there is some common interest, and that's how we go.
Obviously, as a PhD student, we have this burden of publishing papers. So, how to handle this stress because we have to keep something important that itself causes a lot of stress, and then we also aim for very good publications. So, how to handle this overall game?
This is a very interesting question. Frankly speaking, I myself am not sure. I would say like for me, like in the beginning, I had at least not in the first year, but in the second year or so, I had a little bit of like stress that I'm not able to publish anything, or like when I see my peers or some other people, they had like one or two papers and so on, and then I don't even have a problem to work with, or I have like a problem that I'm still figuring out or something like this and so on. So I felt like I'm like very slow doing things. My advisor assured me. So one major thing that really helped me in this particular direction is that I had zero pressure from my advisor. So he was not pushing me to do something fast, to publish something and so on. He's more relaxed, calm, and saying, take your time, do it, and so on. So this was helping me. And in the beginning, the few ideas that we tried actually didn't work. So he said that it's okay. Sometimes you have 5 ideas and none of them works, and the sixth idea would work. So he used to say this kind of thing. So that kind of helped me. it's not because if it's coming from your advisor, then it's really hard situation. And then one more thing that also helped me is that it is always like an exponential curve. This is how I see, like whether it's research or anything, learning new is like an exponential curve. It's not linear. So in the beginning it might seem slow, but if you focus on the right things, the basics and stuff like this, then eventually it would like take off. And luckily that's also what happened in my case. So in the first 3.5 4 years I don't have papers, and then suddenly I have 4 papers. So it's like basically like, yeah, so in that way to me it worked. So all the time I was thinking of like this exponential curve. I'm working on something, eventually this would work. And then I have like 3 4 projects, everything is more or less going on, seems reasonable. So at some point, okay, this would be, there would be an happy ending. That's how I was telling to myself. But of course there are definitely days that I was like totally stressed out or worried that what if it doesn't work. I'm like, third or fourth year into PhD and then I have nothing to show. So this kind of days were definitely there. But overall, with the work and also with the support from the advisor, it was fairly fine.
So I'm assuming because your professor is like so supportive, so your work-life balance was great, and then you were able to like manage both your like daily life, daily chores along with your studies.
Yeah, so for me, I could manage it. I mean, I had a very good time from the group. That's not a big problem. But like I mean, me, just myself, that like if I have a problem and I'm thinking, I usually like get stuck in that. Like it doesn't matter whether you're at home or in the office or whether you're doing something. So naturally, you are kind of it's being there. So I'm not really good at like this balance or like this doing other things and like balancing everything and so on. Yeah, so I actually couldn't do this well. But this is not because of the group or something like this, but it is because of myself, because yeah, it's more like that. But normal person like who could in general do a good balance, I think he wouldn't have a problem.
I'm assuming you came here for your masters
Yes.
into Germany, and until then you studied in India.
Yes.
So where did you do your masters? Like it's in experimental physics, as you said, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So my master's is in experimental physics my master thesis is in the experimental particle physics. It's at CERN, at the Atlas experiment at CERN. So my master's was in Siegen. It's like in the west part of the Germany. So I did my 2 year master's in physics there, and I was taking courses from particle physics and quantum optics and some other things. At that time, I really liked particle physics, and I thought like it's really, really interesting. I still think it's quite interesting actually. But then when I was there, I have to do my master thesis. I thought I would do it in particle physics, and that's how I um, ended up like doing my master thesis in particle physics. But while I was doing this master thesis, I realized that maybe it's not the kind of thing that I wanted to do for my research. That's when I changed.
Why did you choose Germany for doing your masters?
Yeah, so like when I was in India, I did like an internship in IIA. It's called Indian Institute of Astrophysics in Bangalore. There like I did it's actually the institute is for astrophysics, but there is also theoretical physics in there. So I did like a small internship there, and then the professor told me that like US, Germany and Japan are the 3 leading countries in physics, and I would suggest you to like consider these options for your higher education, PhD and stuff like this. So that's when I thought, okay, US is very expensive, Japan is in Japanese, Germany is free education, so it's an obvious choice to make. So it was like that. Yeah.
So how satisfied are you with the German education system?
Quite a bit actually. My satisfaction level for my masters and PhD and the process and everything is, I would say, extremely high. Apart from few mandatory some kind of things that we have to do like this lab courses and so on, even though you're not interested in experiments, there are like there are like few things that I'm not really interested in. But apart from that, like it's quite high, I would say.
How was the process of settling in during your masters in Germany? Because were you already knowing German like before you came here?
No, no, no. When I applied, The master's in physics is actually taught in English, so you don't need German for that. Therefore, I didn't actually learn German. Like when I came here, like I was also living with some people who could speak English and so on. So because of that, like I never had like a difficulty or something like this. And in the university, everything is in English. The course is in English. So German, I mean, I have read many stories that you have to really know very good German and so on and so forth. I actually didn't know German, but I didn't find it extremely hard or something like this to survive. So that's, of course, knowing German would help, but it was not necessary.
Culturally, was there any problem for you to settle in initially?
Yeah, I mean, like I come from India, so they have like completely different culture compared to like here in Germany. So in the beginning, it was like it was very very different, like because Germans are like very different, and like their attitude towards life is very different. The food is very different. Everything is like extremely different. So I think culturally it was, yeah, I feel like to me like integrating to this society is like quite important, and this I find it a little bit hard in the beginning especially.
What about now? How well have you adapted?
I think it is better, but I think in Germany it's still hard, but it's better than before. That's how I see it.
When you say hard, like what is hard to integrate?
So I think like one of the reasons is probably again the language. If I could speak to German, then you can easily make friends or hang out with people, do stuff and so on. But I think this was practically a little bit difficult if you don't know German. So this is one thing. And the other thing is that in general people are a little bit reserved, and it takes time to like to be friends or share anything important and things like this. So in that way I felt it a little bit difficult, yeah, especially in the beginning. After that things were better.
What about the bureaucracy part?
uh, well, probably this is one thing that I really don't like. Actually, the visa process was not that difficult, I would say. It was okayish, but after coming here, you have to do also a lot of paperwork for everything and so on. Everything is like written in paper, print, no electronic things, and the German bureaucracy system is like very very strict, and also like a lot of I would say like a lot of things. It's like you have bureaucracy not just for like your visa things, also for living here. If you for your bank related stuff, financial stuff, taxes, in the university, if you want to go to a conference, insurance. So all in all, like there are so many papers that you have to fill and keep track and so on. So it's a lot of work.
Have you like got your permanent residence? Are you a citizen of Germany?
No, I'm not a citizen, but I hold a permanent residence card from Germany. Yes.
Easy to get it? Like what was the process that you had to go through?
The process was actually quite easy. So if you compare to like US or something, this is like almost nothing. The point is that if you study your masters here, and then I think you have to pay taxes for like 2 years or 2.5 years or something like this, and then you are eligible to get a permanent residence. So if you don't have a master's, then you have to live for 5 years, I think, and pay taxes. But if you already study masters here, they consider that time, and then you can get it like a little bit faster. So that was very smooth actually. Of course, it involves a lot of paperwork again, but overall it was easy. And all you need is like German A1 certificate. So you also don't need to be like a native German speaker or something like this to get the permanent residence.
I thought B1 is the requirement. Now it's A1.
Yeah, so if you do the masters and if you spend some significant time, A1 is sufficient.
What was the process of applying to your masters here and coming from India to Germany?
I think that the as I said, like it started with my cousins and his friend helping me to do. He introduced me to this like DAD website. It's DAAD. So this is like a very good website, like from the German system, and where every university is listed, every possible master's course is listed, and all the requirements, all the details that you know, the scholarships, the possibilities, everything is completely listed. And this was like really, really helpful. So this single website is probably all you need to apply to masters in Germany. So that's what I did. So I went to that webpage. I did masters in physics. I got a list of universities. I went to their webpage, deadlines, applications, and the entire process. And it was all free. And then there are also these Facebook groups like Masters in Germany and things like this, where people ask questions and you can get to know some tricks and some additional information that is in general interesting. So these are like my main things to apply. And once I got the admit, then I directly contacted the university for the rest of the visa process and everything.
So, and after your master's, like, what was the process of getting into PhD?
So when I was doing like my masters, the almost more through like I don't know 70% of my masters or so, slowly I started realizing that I don't want to do particle physics, but I want to like do something else. And then there was this lectures offered by quantum information and so on. So then I just joined this lectures and I started liking it. So I decided that I would do. But of course, I cannot straight away jump in to a PhD like that. So I did an internship actually for some months, learned more about quantum information theory and so on. And then I started applying for the PhDs. And in Europe, the applying for PhDs is very different from any other countries like India or US or Canada or something like this, because here you directly ask to the professor. So you directly write an email to the professor, and if professor has enough fund and he would like to take you take you. So it's like really one-on-one kind of thing, unlike the US where you apply to a university and there is a committee deciding and so on. So it's fairly one-on-one. So because of that, like if you know some nice professors who are working in this field that you are interested to work with, you can directly approach them, and that's actually how I got my PhD. But before that I had this internship. And
So you're paid during your PhD, and then like, is your stipend kind of fixed, or how is it decided? Like your professor decides, or?
so in general, PhD funding is like depends on like from the group to group and the funding. So in the beginning, I was like in this position where my funding is like from the university. So it's paid by the from the university fund. And after that, like I am being funded by the TFG grant. So there is a grant from the TFG and I am paid by that. So when you are getting a fund directly from the university or any grants, you are like an employee. That means like you get a salary, you pay taxes, everything. So this also accounts for your German permanent residence, because you have to pay taxes for some time to able to be a permanent resident. So by paying taxes, you are contributing to the economy, and that's what it counts. So there is also other possibility of like getting like funding during PhD, which is like a scholarship. Like dad also offers like PhD scholarships. There are also House of Young Talents HYT scholarships. There are several other scholarships one could get, but because that is a scholarship, you don't pay tax, and because of that, it's slightly difficult if you want to become a permanent citizen from that. Nevertheless, those are also good opportunities to get funding from the PhD. But in my case, it was always funding from the DFG or from some grant. So it was more like an employee kind of thing.
And besides research, were you also able to like concentrate on any other factors in your life, extracurricular activities and things like that?
I did like a few things. I mean, like, okay, the biggest thing is probably I got married during my PhD, in the middle of my PhD. So I think like this is probably the biggest thing. Apart from that, like I had enough time really. So I learned swimming, I was playing badminton, I was traveling around in Europe, and I learned driving. I got my driver's license here. And yeah, like my parents were visiting me here, so we were traveling around in Europe. They could also see Europe and so on. And of course, wedding, moving in and so on. It's so there are a lot of things happened on the side as well, like which are not directly related to this. And also from the science side, I think there are also two things. So one is like I also had some internships in the industry, and then I also like started like a science blog. So these are like two co-curricular things, I would say.
So regarding this industry, how do you get this internship? Like, because now you're employed and DFJ is paying you. So now how does this process happen? Like, so you apply to them, and then what about the funding, and how is this settled?
First thing is that I applied to this company called Xanadu. It's called Xanadu Quantum Technologies. It's in Toronto, Canada. It's a quantum computing company based on like photonics. So they're trying to make like a photonic quantum computer. They have like a summer residency program where they take like a few students, and during the summertime, May to August, so 4 months time, so we could actually visit them like stay in Toronto in their office and then like work for 4 months like in a nice project. So this was the summer residency idea. And then I came to know about this program, and then like I applied to this program, and I got in. Whole time when we were working there, because as you said, I'm an employee in here in Germany, I had to take like an unpaid work leave.
Okay.
So your contract would be like in pause, like you don't work the 4 months, so you also don't get paid. So it's like a break in your contract. But yeah, so you can sign the contract in Canada and work there, and they also pay during like your residency time there. So that's how I did it.
But do these companies also give this option where instead of like pausing your contract here, going there and working, can you collaborate with some of the employees and still continue here your project and then work with them also?
Yeah, some companies actually do this. They have like a project, and they also collaborate with some university or a professor or a group to this project. So they kind of maybe fund a PhD or something like this. Like you can get paid from some of the from the company's money and so on. And then that's a collaborative project. This is also possible. And actually nowadays you as you brought this up, like I would also like to share that there is also a huge possibility in the quantum information, quantum computing. It is also possible to do a PhD in a company totally. So instead of doing a PhD in the university, so now because of this cross collaborations between industry and academia and all this kind of things, you could completely do your PhD in, I don't know, like any company like IBM or QM, like any company that's working on this. They have even like a proper PhD programs because they're also doing very good research, publishing papers and so on. So this is also a very nice way to do a PhD if somebody is more inclined towards the industry. So this kind of collaborations are always possible, but in my case it was like completely a different like streamlined internship program, like the summer resident program.
Doing research in a company, is it like kind of different than doing in academia? Like how was your experience?
In quantum industry, I don't think so actually, because quantum computing is like at a very early stage, I would say. It is not like companies are like just mass producing some product and selling that off, because everybody is still trying to figure out what is like the best way to do it and what are the bottlenecks and so on, and they're making things better and better every day. So in this things, I would say like it's very much similar. The only thing is that if you work in the companies, maybe they are not very much interested to publish every result. Like in the academia, they might make patent out of it, or they want to keep it like confidential, some of the results and things like this. So that's one difference. And also one major difference which I actually like in the industry setting is that the goal is very common. So for instance, like if in the academia, like I'm in a group of like 5 people, everybody is a PhD student. All 5 of us has a different goal. So I am working in some topic in my PhD, and that's my goal, and somebody else something else, and so on. We of course collaborate, talk, help each other, and so on. But at the end of the day, everybody has their own project, their own PhD stuff, their own goal, their own thing. But in the company, it's not like that. So if you are a group of 10 people working, everybody goal is the same thing, to make this thing work and to do this. So I think like that collaborative effort I could see much more in company than in academia, because there everybody's goal is one and the same. And that I also a little bit saw in CERN. So when I was at CERN, I felt the same thing, because there are so many people, mathematicians, physicists, experimental physicists, theory physicists, engineers, all kinds of people, but there again they have like a common goal to some extent. And that's also true like in industry. So that is one major thing that's actually different and also very interesting actually to work with.
So I think so it will be somewhat nice if even PhDs with same mentality and same research goals, if we happen to meet and work together, then maybe the burden, anxiety, everything reduces and maybe we can perform better.
Yeah, absolutely. But like in the end of the day, my PhD is like my PhD, right? Like so it's like that. But in the company, it's not really like that. I mean, there is no PhD, no paper. I mean, like if they publish a paper, everybody would be on the paper. There is no discussion. I mean, like it's like so things are like much more clear, and then everybody tries to like do something to make that happen. So it's much more supportive in that sense.
Do you feel now that maybe some extra features should have been there in your PhD curriculum so that like things would have been better?
I probably figured some things out myself, which might be not a very efficient way to do it. And I think especially when a guy is joining a PhD, I think in the beginning, if there is like more support, more information and some kind of orientation or some kind of support would have been helpful.
So now we are in the last chapter. So what are your plans for your next step after your
Yeah,
PhD?
so actually I have decided to move to industry because as I said, like I worked in Siddhu for some time and I really liked it. And then I was thinking that maybe I can do better in this kind of collaborative environment. And this was the reason that I decided to move to industry. I have some offer as well, but I'm deciding at the moment. But I would soon move to industry. I think that's the plan. But I would like to stay in the quantum industry for sure, and that's the thing. And also, like as I said, like I have my blog, so I also want to like put more time and effort into my blog to make it better. I think these are the my main two things to future plans, I would say. Yeah.
What was your initial plan or what was the motivation for you to start your blog post?
There is like a lot of news and hype around the quantum and AI every day, like either in LinkedIn or social media. Every day I see like so much hundreds of millions of dollars and like this company raised this much money or whatever, like this collaboration and so on. But most of the time I see all the posts are like hype and the news, but very few talk about the science behind it. So I am more interested in the science behind it and like how things work. And so that is one of the main reasons, like everybody is like on the news and the hype and so on, but nobody is talking about the science, or comparatively less people are talking the science behind them. And also second thing is that I am personally interested very much in the science communication. So yeah, so I'm extremely interested in like the science communication. So I also want to try it out myself, just to do it like an experiment and to see like if it actually works. So I'm interested in science communication to explain things like in a simpler way and in an interesting way and so on, to make it more fun. So to make science and math more fun, because the notion now is that there are many people who are very much scared to do math or science, saying it's too difficult, it's too complicated and stuff like this. This is not really true. So there was like a lot of prejudice attached to that. So part of this blog is also to teach science and math in a way that's much more simpler, so people understand it and then realize at some point this is actually not that hard, and it's also actually very much interesting and fun. So that's the main goal of the blog. Yeah.
So are you like concentrating more towards quantum tech side in your blog post?
So I have to start somewhere. So I started with like writing the science behind quantum and AI. Like, so there is a lot of science behind this thing. So for example, like computers use binary, like zeros and ones. Why don't computers use like normal numbers? What is so fancy about binary, for example? This was like my recent post, like why binaries like are very interesting, why people how did this idea even come up, or how what happened and so on. So things like this. So able to try to first see like on the quantum and the AI side, like the science behind it, and then maybe depending on like how I do it, as I said, it's an experimental thing. If people really appreciate the things, then maybe I also like try to explain other parts of like science, like the basic physics, or I don't know, thermodynamics, or any kind of physics in general. Yeah, that's the long term goal if everything goes well.
So for our listeners, we will add the link below of your blog post.
It's a weekly science letter. So you get an email every week, and then you can take like, I don't know, 5 minutes or 10 minutes to read and understand one idea from science, something like that.
So people who are interested can subscribe to it and use this as a medium to easily understand what's happening actually in science and AI and get to know the truth more easily, I guess.
Absolutely. That's at least the goal, and yeah, I'm always also open to feedback. So if anybody wants to write to me, feel free to like reach out to me and say whether it's good or bad, so that it also helps in general the writing and also like the science that is conveyed.
Regarding your next step, you're planning to get into industries. So, as a PhD, like, what is the usual process for one to get into industry? Is it like doing an internship? Is it necessary, or should I just give interviews and if I get selected, I'm just going in? How should we figure this out?
So it depends also a little bit on like what kind of jobs you are trying to apply and what kind of industry. For example, if it is like quantum industry, I think it's little bit straightforward. Like you are working on some topic and then you are applying for a job in similar topic. So then it's like pretty much easy. Like it's like a straightforward. But let us say you are working on A, but you are applying for positions in B. So then I think it's a little bit more tricky. So one thing is that from all this industry applications that I did, what I learned is like quantum error correction and quantum algorithms are like the main things in the theory. So there are so many jobs in this direction, quantum error correction and quantum algorithms. So if you already have a PhD in quantum algorithms and applying for a job in quantum algorithms, it's much more smoother. And the other part of the jobs that are happening, I'm not talking about the hardware and experiments, I'm not aware of them. So I'm only talking from the theories perspective. So from there, quantum error correction and like this algorithms. Apart from this, there is also like this software side. So you also have like a lot of jobs in the quantum software developer and things like this. So for this kind of jobs, it is helpful if you already have some industry exposure where you worked in a company and you are using like this CLI tools or continuous integration, GitHub and things like this. You are reviewing someone's code or you're part of a big pipeline and you have already some experience. You contributed to the open source projects or have an internship at a company or something like this. So especially like this on this boundary of like this theory slash software, there I think industry experience is particularly more helpful.
Also, now that this boom is happening in this quantum tech industry, a lot of startups have also booming everywhere, and I see like a lot of job openings available, both from hardware and for theoretician side. So I think so this is going to open a lot of job market.
In general, yes, like I think the lot of jobs would be opening in in this fields, but it's also extremely important to able to see what aligns to you. So because like if it is not aligning, even though there are a lot of jobs, I think it's very difficult. So I think it's your PhD topic, your interests and so on. So one thing that I can also say for people who are doing PhDs, if you're in your third year, you might finish like maybe in 1 year or 1.5 years. You can already start thinking, okay, I have this knowledge, this expertise, this direction, and then you can slowly taste, like do some internship like this to get some industry exposure or try to understand like how it is to work in the industry. It's slightly different, so you can get a taste of it, and if you like it, you can see like what are the basic things in the industry it's happening, and what are your interests and your experience, what things you can learn and so on. You can be a little bit better prepared. So in that sense it would be very helpful, yeah, because there are a lot of jobs, also a lot of competition, because everyone wants to do like this thing. So it's also a lot of people who want to like or who are already studying like masters or doing PhDs in this topic, yeah.
So thank you so much. We learned like so much from you today, like regarding doing PhD and then how you settled in Germany and how to actually get into industry, which has been like the new thing now, people getting into quantum tech. And as a fun part, we'll be doing a rapid fire round with you.
Thank you very much.
What's tougher, German winters or PhD reviews?
German winters.
One Indian food you trade all of German bread for.
I don't eat meat, so I can trade all the meat.
One German habit you think India should adopt.
Being on time and maybe on in the following traffic rules in the while driving.
In hindsight, what was your PhD more about endurance, creativity, or luck?
Mix of everything.
Which Indian festival do you miss celebrating most in Germany?
Diwali probably.
What's the weirdest question Germans asked you about India?
Is there a language called Indian?
Okay.
Or isn't there a language called Indian?
One Indian street food you dream of at 2 a.m. in Germany.
Wow, the list is endless.
First German food you tried.
I think it's Käsespätzle.
One city in Germany you'd actually settle in.
Mainz. I really like it.
Okay. So here ends your rapid fire round. In this series, we have this one tradition of asking this question to all my guests. So, do you miss India?
Absolutely. So I'll tell you something. One person told me that you can always come out of India, but you cannot get India out of you. And that's very true. So I do miss India.
So, do you have any plans of going back to India and settling in there, or?
Yeah, I think so. So at least in the long run, I can imagine myself like going back to India, and especially like as I said, I'm interested in science communication and so on. So I'm hoping that I could able to do something like this in India.
Also, is there anything that you felt proud of India after coming to Germany?
I think the culture.
Okay.
The culture and like the community, like the people and the community of the people. I think like this is really stark, and of course Indian food.
So, thank you so much for joining today's podcast. And I'm sure like all our listeners will benefit from this, especially the master students who are planning to get into Germany, and how the fact that education is free here, like in public universities, they can benefit a lot from this. And I hope everyone enjoyed our podcast and stay tuned for more podcasts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for watching Qubit Monk. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Stay curious, stay kind, and I'll see you in the next one.